Hello, hello. I just got back from work and I had just such an inspiring conversation on the phone just now. So I felt, inspired and I wanted to quickly record a video on it. The conversation I had revolved around getting traction on some of our healthy habits and, you know, we know there's so much information about there. We kind of know what's the good information, the right information about drinking more water, getting more sleep. So why doesn't it stick? Why aren't we doing these things when it's like easy things to do? And so hashing out this in conversation, I thought, okay, this is a great topic to talk about. So what better metaphor to talk about getting traction on something is to talk about my car, Jack, who is not all-wheel drive, and I live in Fargo, North Dakota, which I think we looked up as like the third coldest city in the United States. And don't ask me why I do not have an all-wheel drive car. It is likely because I'm stubborn, which I think is a great segue into transitioning to talk about healthy eating habits and why we choose to eat what we do, because we're stubborn. And for me, I think what helps is if I'm going to make a change in something, especially when it comes to eating, there needs to be two things. It needs to be coming, like a recommendation needs to be coming from a credible source, and it also needs to be in alignment with my own principles of what I believe. So this raises a bigger question of what are your health truths? And these can change. So as a kid, my health truths are very different than what they are now. As a kid, I was eating sugar-free, fat-free, diet soda, and all that stuff. And now I'm very conscious, and it's been a long course, but I try to eat non-GMO and organic. I don't try to eat processed foods. I basically shop the perimeter of the grocery store. So very dramatic and polar opposite health truths to me that I think are my principles. And so why was it such a long change, and what was the hesitancy in that? And the first thing that comes to mind, and I'm laughing, I'll tell you, is the Whole30. And I laugh because I'm like obsessed with the results of this. And if my fiance was here, he would roll his eyes. And if my family heard me talking about this, they would just enough about Whole30. But I say it because it was just like that moment in your life when like you implemented something different that disrupted your routine, and like you saw like groundbreaking results from it that you're so stoked about. You just want everyone to have the same results. So without getting into the details of Whole30, because God knows I'll never stop talking about that, what helped me ease that transition was having a wingman that I had in my family who is a credible source, and then I did my own research on it, and the information lined up with my principles. So that's what kind of helped me transition. But what do you do when you don't have a wingman and it's just you and you're your own accountability coach and you're inundated with all this information of eat this, don't eat that? Why do we just spin our wheels? Why don't we get any traction on all this information? Even when we think that, okay, this could align with our principles. And reflecting on this myself, I think that the missing part of a lot of this transition on a personal level is that I'm stubborn and I'm just comfortable with my routine and I don't want to disrupt it. I do want to, but I'm scared of making changes because I don't know what's going to happen. So that's the other question, is what is scaring you about it? And I'm convinced that for me, it's not necessarily going from point A to B. I don't think it's B that scares me. I think it's the middle ground of like I don't know what that's going to be like. What's that mess? I know what it's going to be like if I'm like consistently working out and I can stick to that, okay. But what's that gonna be like to disrupt the routine that I have when I come home from work, or if it's something I need to do in the morning when I'm in my warm bed and I like sleep until this time and I have my routine, like what does that look like? And so oftentimes we kind of spin our wheels and we don't have any activity on change because we don't know what that's like, and we're scared. So how do we go about disrupting that to make the transition easier? And it doesn't have to be something really dramatic like implementing an entirely new fitness workout or routine, because literally this water, and there's lemon juice in here, it still is like a really hard change for me, which I don't know if that's sad, but I've been trying to drink more water, and I'll just share a personal example of swapping out one water for my morning coffee, or even just one of my morning coffees. Like that to me was like absolutely not going to do that. And the more I thought about it, it doesn't break down to the coffee and the water, like the elemental nutrients that I'm talking about. It's actually more of like a feeling and an emotional need that I think is going to be stripped from me, that I'm like adamant about clutching to because that's comfortable to me. And when I wake up to get my coffee because I'm going from warm to warm. And once I started recognizing that, and also recognizing that it's not that I'm never going to ever have coffee again. Trust me, I will later in the day. It's just that I want to ease that. How can I ease that transition? So for water, having something at room temperature, makes that transition a little bit easier because it's not coming straight out of the fridge. I'm not getting the dramatic temperature shifts. Along the temperature lines, if your transition is getting to the gym and doing that first thing in the morning, maybe it is something as simple as being in your warm bed and not wanting to transition and change into something cold. How do you ease that transition? Maybe you sleep in your workout clothes so you don't have to change. And then you have like your sweatshirt and whatever next to your bed so that that's more comfortable, so you don't spin your wheels in the same routine, and you can be your own coach and your own accountability coach when no wingman is there at 5 a.m. or whatever time in the morning you choose to work out. So that's kind of what this is about. It's about disrupting your routine and looking at the transition and saying, how can I ease this transition based on an emotional need that I'm being stubborn and I'm holding on to. And the last example that I think comes to mind for me is having something sweet after dinner. And it's not the food, it's not the sweetness. Because when you eat something sweet, it stimulates the parts of your brain and lights up the pleasure centers. So it's the emotional pleasure at night of that indulgence. And so sometimes it's just that comfort of how can I replicate that comfort and fulfill that emotional need? Because sometimes you even know, for me at least, I even know, like I don't even want something sweet, but it's a habit and it just it rounds out my night. Well, how else can you round out and still feel like you're having that emotional need satisfied? Whether it's, again, something warm, like maybe you just want like a decaf something, or just hold a warm cup of lemon water, I don't know, wrap in a blanket, or maybe it's just kind of the relaxation that it gives you. So finding a book, or like writing, or just turning off social media and turning off a blue screen, and being in bed even. So again, recognizing those emotional needs that you need to fill to help transition into establishing healthier long-term habits that get traction. So I hope this was helpful. I would love to hear you guys and what you think, what has worked for you. Even something as simple or not as simple as just drinking more water instead of coffee, whatever, I would love to hear. And I love for you to share. So invite friends, and I look forward to hearing your responses.